Durham was the director of the LDS Institute of Religion at the University of Utah, and also the president of the Mormon History Association. He made a very revealing discovery that Mormon prophet Joseph Smith had a Jupiter talisman on his person when he was killed at Carthage Jail in 1844. The talisman was representative of the power of Jupiter, who was known as Jupiter to the Romans, Zeus to the Greeks, and Ammon to the Egyptians. It provided the power, protection, and good fortune to whoever wore the talisman. It also stimulated anyone to offer his or her love to the wearer of the talisman. And, in the presence of the priest of Jupiter, the most ancient and sacred form of marriage took place, for time and eternity. On April 20, 1974, Durham explained his findings in a speech given before the Mormon History Association. He said, "Now I should like to initiate all of you into what is perhaps the strangest, the most mysterious, occult-like, esoteric, and yet Masonically oriented practice ever adopted by Joseph Smith. This may also be another fine example of our earlier explained principle of grabbing on. All available evidence suggests that Joseph Smith the prophet possessed a magical Masonic medallion, or talisman, which he worked during his lifetime, and which was evidently on his person when he was martyred. His talisman is in the shape of a silver dollar, and is probably made of silver or tin. It is exactly 1 9/16 inches in diameter and weighs slightly less than 1/2 ounce. After months of research, the talisman, presently existing in Utah, was originally purchased from the Emma Smith Biderman family, fully notarized by that family to be authentic, and to have belonged to Joseph Smith, can now be identified as a Jupiter talisman. It carries the sign and image of Jupiter, and should more appropriately be referred to as the Table of Jupiter, and in some very real and quite mysterious sense, this particular Table of Jupiter was the most appropriate talisman for Joseph Smith to possess. Indeed, it seemed meant for him, because on all levels of interpretation, planetary, mythological, numerological, astrological, mystical Kabbalism, and talismanic magic, the prophet was, in every case, appropriately described. The characters on the talisman are primarily in Hebrew, but there is one inscription in Latin. Every letter in the Hebrew alphabet has a numerical equivalent, and those numerical equivalents make up a magic square. By adding the numbers in this Jupiter table in any direction, the total will be the same. In this case, on the Jupiter table, 34. The total of the numbers will be 136, which number you will see on the talisman. The symbol for Jupiter is also found on both sides of the talisman, which, by the way, is the same symbol for metal tin. Each letter of the Hebrew alphabet has a specific, and in some cases, a mystical and esoteric meaning. The total of those meanings, as well as the connection and importance of Jupiter, is extremely and mysteriously significant in relationship with Joseph Smith. Maybe we could show that right now. You can see the Hebrew characters, and you can see the square. There will be 16 Hebrew letters, and each of those letters represents a number. Each of those numbers total up to 34, in any way you would add them. Now you see on the margins, at the bottom is the Jupiter sign, and then on the side over to the right is a Hebrew word which means Abba, which means Father. At the top you will see another Hebrew word which means Elab, which means God the Father, or Father is God. And over on the side in the margin you will see the name in Hebrew meaning Josaphiel, which means Jehovah is spokesman for God, if Jehovah is the mouth, on this side. Now, let's show the other side of the talisman and you will see the Latin phrase, Cantermo odius potentissimus. It's lousy Latin, but probably means perhaps, confirm, O God, who is all-powerful, or Almighty God confirm me, or uphold me, or support me. It is not accurately grammatical, but that is the term on the medallion or talisman. The cross at the top represents the spirit of Jupiter, and you will see the path of Jupiter in the orbit of the heavens, and then again the Jupiter sign. In a magic book printed in England in 1801, published in America in 1804, I traced it to Manchester and to New York. It was a magic book by Francis Berrett, and lo and behold, how thrilled I was when I saw in his list of magic seals the very talisman which Joseph Smith had in his possession at the time of his martyrdom. Jupiter, according to the Hebrews, is the morning star rising in the east, and is called in that language Sadok, which means righteous one. Now the star in the east is one of the very definite Masonic emblems, and is used regularly in most Masonic ceremonies to symbolize the ever-approaching dawn of perfection and restored Masonic light. To the Egyptians, Jupiter was known as Ammon, but to the Greeks he was Zeus, the ancient sky father of the gods. According to the Greeks, Jupiter was seen as not only the great protecting deity of the race, but also the one, and, perhaps, the only one whose worship embodies a distant moral conception. He is specifically concerned with oaths, treaties, and leagues, and it was in the presence of his priest that the most ancient and sacred form of marriage took place, that is, marriage for time and eternity. In numerology, Jupiter's concern with the fortunes of life, the planet is regarded as the kindly, benevolent planet, and the adjective jovial indeed comes from, is derived from, the word Jove, for Jupiter. And I quote, "The gifts that Jupiter brings are those of reason, understanding of humanity, plus the ability to see things in a broad outline." It is regarded as the planet that brings expansion in many different forms. It weaves into the lives of some persons skeins of generous impulse, ranging from generosity with material things to sympathy in spiritual matters. He also controls expansion in all forms. Most of the philanthropists of the world are strongly Jupiter-oriented, and in the professions, those held under its influence are legislators, bankers, lawyers, etc. In astrology, Jupiter is always associated with high positions, getting one's own way, and all forms of status. And I quote, "Typically, a person born under Jupiter will have the dignity of a natural ruler. He knows what is due him and expects to receive respect accordingly. He will probably have an impressive manner and, in consequence, is likely to be elected to official positions in clubs and other organizations." In physical appearance, the highly developed Jupiterian is strong, personable, and often handsome. Jupiterians are often tall or rugged of physique. In every case, the Jupiterian influence produces a cheerful, winning personality capable of great development. Astrology also declares that every year is governed by one of the planets, and, therefore, the planet directs the affairs of men for good or ill during that year. Joseph Smith's planet was Jupiter, and two significant years governed by Jupiter were 1805 and 1844. The day of the week governed by Jupiter was Thursday. And I don't know, perhaps just coincidence, the fast meetings in the church were on Thursdays for 60 years, as well as all the regular Mormon Masonic meetings on the first and third Thursdays, as well as the day of the prophet Joseph Smith's martyrdom on Thursday, and so many other special events in church history. So closely is magic bound up with the stars and astrology that the term astrologer and magician were in ancient times almost synonymous. The purpose of the table of Jupiter in talismanic magic was to be able to call upon the celestial intelligences assigned to the particular talisman to assist one in all endeavors. The names of the deities which we gave you, who could be invoked by the table, were always written on the talisman or represented by various numbers. 3 such names were written on Joseph Smith's talisman: Abba, Father; Elab, Father is God or God the Father; and Josaphiel, Jehovah speaks for God, the intelligence of Jupiter. When properly invoked, with Jupiter being very powerful and ruling in the heavens, these intelligences, by the power of ancient magic, guaranteed to the possessor of this talisman the gain of riches, and favors, and power, and love, and peace, and to confirm honors, and dignities, and counsels. Talismanic magic further declared that anyone who worked skillfully with this Jupiter table would obtain the power of stimulating anyone to offer his love to the possessor of the talisman, whether from a friend, brother, relative, or even any female. Whether or not Joseph Smith was first introduced to this kind of magic through Masonry is not known at present. Where he obtained his personal talisman is also not known. But the tradition, which came out of the Emma Smith Bideman family, attributed the talisman as being Joseph's Masonic jewel. The relationship with Masonry is possible because Masonry did contain elements of magic, including this magic table of Jupiter.